When Devin first came out, it shook the world. Never before has anybody thought of having an AI assistant software engineer have multiple terminals, a web browser, and able to ship and test code all by itself. Since the initial announcement, there has been many new use cases that have come out that are extremely compelling, like we're looking at here. The reality is, though, you can get 80% of the features that might be touted by the Devin platform on your own computer running locally with no extra cost. All you need is Claude Code or an AI assistant that you know how to give custom prompts to, and the ability to run bash commands. So in a sec, we're going to build a whole app and we're going to see the AI assistant Claude Code in this video, test, open it, and run multiple terminals all at once. It's actually pretty easy, and we're going to use some software from 2007 to do it. Buckle up, we're about to watch a whole app build itself. Now, what is that tool from 2007 that's going to enable us to use Claude Code like it's Devin? It's TMUX, Terminal Multiplexer. And it allows us to open up new sessions. As you can see in the lower left, this one's called test, and it is essentially a terminal that is a daemon, a stateful daemon, or a process that's running on my computer. So we're going to run Claude Code in one of these daemons, and we're going to run some other terminals that Claude Code can use, send keys over to, and run commands all by itself in its own little isolated environment. We're going to detach from this test terminal because we don't need it. So I'm out of there, and let's create a new project scaffold. I'd like to use the T3 app template. If you want to read more about it, you can always head over to Create T3 App and check out their docs right here. But it's, a streamlined way, just like Create Next App, that uses TRPC as the API layer. Now, the project I want to create is something that allows me to view my old Claude Code session transcripts. The transcript has a ton of information in it that you just can't get sometimes by looking at that extended history you would find in Claude Code, or it's items you can't get at where you just look at the hooks, Claude Code hooks. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, because we're going to be putting out videos about how you can customize Claude Code hooks and get customized logs out of that. But nonetheless, there is missing information from the hooks. There's missing information from the transcript that you might get in the terminal. I want some viewer where I can see it all. I want to see all my transcripts, the tool's input, the tool's output. So let's call this C transcript for Claude transcript. We're going to make this in TypeScript. We want Tailwind. We are going to use TRPC. Don't need authentication right now. Let's use Drizzle for our ORM. We do want the app router, and we can use SQLite. That's always great. Prettier for formatting. Let's initialize a Git repository and run npm install. Anytime I start a new app now, I always just love to use SQLite. It's easy, it gets you up and running really quick. You can always go to Postgres later. All right, let's get into that directory that we're going to be running in. And let's start a new TMUX session. We want to start a new shell to run Claude Code in so that it's in its own little isolated environment. So I'm going to do TMUX new -s for session, and let's just call it the name of the project, C transcript. Excellent. So now we're in the C transcript terminal. Whenever you open up a new TMUX session, you're going to be bounced into whatever home directory your normal terminal goes to. So we're back in development where my terminal starts every time. So we need to go back into C transcript, and we're ready to go. For us to achieve a level of automation that is on par with Devin, we need to allow our AI assistant to have access to a web browser, to run the app itself in a persistent terminal, which will be its own TMUX session. We also probably need a terminal for it to just run any old command if it needs to test something. We've already identified 2 extra terminals, and depending on your app, you might want to boot up more. Let's open up 2 more TMUX sessions, and I'm going to do this in a split pane format. We're going to open up one here on the right-hand side, and then I'll split the right-hand side. I like to keep the left hand big and open because I'm going to actually run Claude in here, and I want to see as much of Claude as I can in the terminal. So this TMUX session, let's do TMUX new -s, and I will name it deterministically. The name of our big TMUX session, the main TMUX session, is C transcript, but this top one we're going to use to run the Next.js app. So we might as well call it Next.js. Now for the one underneath that, we're going to do something similar. TMUX new -s C transcript, but let's call this one debug because this is for running debug, maybe test commands. And the beauty of this is if you've used AI assistants, especially Claude Code, where you have to be careful of your context window, and you feed it a TypeScript, type check, or a lint, and there's a ton of errors, it can just chew through that context window so quickly. It could be extremely advantageous if you're able to run those commands in an isolated environment like the debug one, and then have the main Claude Code session here on the left read the output from the right in a deterministic and controlled manner. And you can do that with TMUX with this command called TMUX capture pane. And just like that, our custom Devin environment is enabled. We have 3 terminals ready to go. In a project with the T3 app initialized, I can just run the tree command here, and you can see that we have Drizzle set up, we have our source Next.js app, and a TS config. Let's start coding. It's kind of funny when we say start coding these days using these assistants. Starting to code means writing your damn thing out in English. So that's what we need to start with. And actually, I need to quit out of Claude Code because we need to make that claude.md file. That claude.md will be loaded when we load Claude Code. It doesn't exist yet though, so I'm going to touch claude.md so that this is ready to go. Let's open this up in Cursor so we can take a better look and start adding. Like we said, this is going to be a project where we are going to read the underlying Claude Code transcripts that might exist on our system. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I'm going to make a video diving deep into the Claude Code transcripts and the data they can get out of them. If you're familiar with Claude Code, there is this home-Claude directory, and inside of here, there's a bunch of stuff. And some of that stuff is a persistent record of all the projects that you've been working on with Claude. So here in another window, I have my .claude directory and my home open, and here we can see a projects folder. Opening this up, these are every single project you have ever worked with Claude Code. So let's open up one of these. I have this little animation project, and there's a bunch of JSON-L files. These are JSON log files. And every single message that gets sent for every session is put in these JSON-L files. And there is a lot of information. You don't just get the messages, you get things like if it's a parent, if it's a sub-agent. So if the parent UUID is null, you know it's in the main agent. If it's not null, it's probably a sub-agent, aka that was invoked with the task call to make a sub-agent in Claude Code. We can get so much information from these transcripts. So what we're going to do is load up this claude.md with essentially our vision, and then I'm going to make a supplementary document here called Claude Code transcripts. And in this, we're going to put a detail about what these JSON-L files look like. So what I just did is I copied an example transcript, just copied all of it. Then I sent it over to Gemini because I can take in 1 million tokens and had it output an analysis about what the structure is. And this is essentially just that verbatim output that I got straight from Gemini. So we're going to save that in the cc transcripts.md file. Now here I have a root claude.md file for the project and what we want to build. I find that a lot of YouTube tutorials will tell you about the claude.md files and the ways that you can use them on the system and the project and memories and agents and commands, but they don't walk you through the composition of them. That's one thing I hope to do more on this channel is how you can craft these fine-tuned pieces of language to actually lend themselves to a successful one-shot or two-shot request to get a starter. Here we have the description of the C transcript app at the beginning. This project is made for developers who are using Claude Code and they want better insight into how Claude is operating on the system. I give a tech stack, so we're using Zustan for state management. I don't know, I found it on YouTube one time and I just like how it works. ShadCN for components, Magic UI, Next.js, TRPC, all the stuff that kind of just comes with the T3 stack. Zod for runtime validation, SQL like we mentioned. Local only app, I say this so that it doesn't try to do a bunch of fancy user account stuff, at least not yet. Tailwind, Framer Motion, and Drizzle for our databases. Now, here's the important stuff, the development environment. This is where we give Claude specific instructions on how it might want to use TMUX. So this is one keyword that Anthropic personally recommends to us. It's to use the word proactively. If you want something to happen all the time, use the word proactively. I don't know, that's just what they say. So proactively use TMUX as your superpower to develop. You have access to the following TMUX sessions. And here you're going to see the copies of that which we had in the terminal: transcript, C transcript Next.js, and C transcript debug. Hop back over to our prompt. The C transcript Next.js TMUX session, which should stay open and active, as this will be where you will run the Next.js TRPC app bundle. The C transcript debug TMUX session, which should stay open and active at all times as well. You must run all commands you would otherwise run with the bash tool inside your session here to instead run directly inside C transcript debug. If you're going to be using the bash tool, make sure it is to use TMUX end keys to the C transcript debug session. And then I just kind of hammer it home. Most importantly, at the bottom, we're going to introduce 2 MCP servers, Model Context Protocol. If you haven't dabbled with MCP or you're overwhelmed by the thousands of servers out there, hit the notification bell and subscribe because we're going to be going over focused direct workflows with subsets of MCPs. That's really how you get the sledgehammer with the MCP servers. So we're going to use 2 in this project, which is Perplexity for search and Playwright for booting up a web browser and actually using the app as it's developing it. So check it out. We have 2 TMUX sessions to run the Next.js app, one to pretty much do anything, database migrations, Docker, and then we have a web browser and a Perplexity search engine all at the fingertips of our Claude code. I am starting a school community. I've never done that before, but there are a bunch of files and little outputs that pertain to what we're doing. You can go check out the AI Dev Accelerator out on School, and you can definitely find everything that we're looking at here on this demo video and how you might want to scaffold this in a prompt, and you will be able to find this artifact there if you want to grab what you're looking at and feed it into your Claude or your cursor and have it output a TMUX prompt that is apt and primed for your project that you're working on. It can just copy this style. Now, in interest of time in the video, we're not going to go over what I wrote here for the user experience and the general vibe of how this app is supposed to work. Let's hop back over in our terminal, boot up Claude in our main TMUX session, and we can start coding. Thank you kindly for your help. As you can see in the root Claude file, we are ready with a full plan to create a Claude project viewer where we can click into projects and then view their transcripts. We can click on the transcript, and then we will have a little console window open up where we can view the top level AI assistant and user messages, and optionally click on those messages with little badges and statuses to see what tool calls, what tool call parameters, and any other sorts of interesting pieces of information got emitted from that sub message. There is a full plan, definition, tech stack, and general development paradigm that you should follow with these TMUX sessions defined in the root Claude file, along with a supplementary research on how Claude code transcripts are structured. Now I'm just going to mention a file. You can find that in here. The plan is clear, the tech stack is defined, the styles are mentioned, and the general back and forth between the client, the server, the data, and the database is all set in stone. Your goal now is to come up with a comprehensive implementation plan that goes over each and every file, source, area of nuance, and desired feature that will make its way into that which is designed and mentioned in that root Claude file. Output your complete implementation plan in a file called implementation.md in the root of this project. Focus all of your effort and think harder about exploring each and every file to ensure you have the most up-to-date knowledge about the structure and where this should go. Do not actually put root source code into this plan, but rather focus on the development workflow, data flow, and specific definitions of that which will make the app error-free and a pleasure to use. Okay, I'm gonna send this prompt off, and I told it specifically not to start coding. I just wanted to output a planning document that I can see exactly what's coming back from these different commands. Like here it's using pnpm list as a stand and it's not finding it. Now before we start actually implementing the plan, one awesome trick is you want to hit escape 2 times, but now you can go up to the previous message. So here we are here, and at the bottom of that last message that we just sent it, I want to get rid of what we're telling it to do, the prerogative. Instead of telling it to output a complete implementation plan, we're going to tell it that this implementation plan already exists and that our teammates came up with it. Instead of us coming up with it or itself coming up with it, that other guy came up with it. And Claude's going to be a little bit more critical, a bit more refined and heavy-handed at calling things out that might not be the way they should. We have a complete implementation plan that we are confident in implementation.md. Though it is almost complete, and though we are confident in it, it needs some refinement and elegance improvements. Please look through the comprehensive structure of the repo, gain your own mental model and understanding of the root mission in the root Claude file, as well as the transcript file, and consider the best grug-a-brain approach to the most streamlined and error-free, pleasurable development experience possible. Last but not least, we need to ensure that the use of TMUX and proper use of type checking is interwoven throughout the plan so that any agents working on any part of the plan always have the right mindset. Okay, awesome. Our second reviewed plan is ready to go. So we need to add these MCP servers so that Claude Code can have these abilities. So I'm going to cancel add a Claude because once we add them, we need to restart Claude anyway. We can do Claude MCP add playwright, and it's essentially just the command you want to run, which is npx at playwright/mcp at latest. So you go ahead, hit enter, and now Claude Code has the ability to use a web browser. So we're going to do pretty much the same thing with Perplexity. And now I can open up Claude once more, and we can do the /mcp command, and we can see Playwright and Perplexity are both enabled. Awesome. We have the plan, we have the MCP servers, we have TMUX. Now let's set Claude off on the refined plan and watch it go. As you can see, we have a rich implementation plan defined where we will view Claude Code projects, which have Claude Code transcripts, which have top-level messages that have a variety of information about our sessions. Please iterate and execute on the implementation plan step by step, leaving no detail unturned. Do not stop until everything is exhaustively complete, and often and deliberately use the TMUX sessions and your MCP servers to ensure a quality product each step of the way. And here we go. All right, and I'm just going to clear out these sessions right here so that we can get a nice view as to what's going on. So check it out. It's now installing shadcn for us, interactive. So it needed input and Claude Code detected that, and it sent over the Y key press to say, yes, please continue. Selected a neutral color. Awesome. shadcn is now ready to. So it looks like here we had some drizzle table definitions created for us. We have the transcripts definition and the projects definition. And the right-hand side, we had the schema actually pushed to the database for us. Okay, here we have npm install Zustand and framer motion running for us. Looks like now we're moving on to defining our trpc router procedures. So we have the transcript router being made right here. And oh, check it out on the right-hand side, we just had type check run for us. That's awesome. Very nice. Unsafe assignment of an any value. Man, do I hate that code smell when we see it, and it's gonna call it out here for us. All right, now we're actually moving on to writing the Next.js pages. So we're making a dynamic ID page so we can probably find whatever project or transcript we're looking at. Looks like we need some icons, so it's going to install Lucid React. And aha, in the debug terminal, we saw that flyby, npm install Lucid React. We can see actually how Claude's doing this. It's just using its bash tool call, and it's doing TMUX send keys, the session name, and then it's just sending what it wants to do as if it were typing in the terminal followed by an enter key press. It's going to be really cool when we see Google Chrome open all automatically with us being hands off and watching Claude Code test this and making sure the icons render as they should. Okay, look, it wants to start the dev server, and indeed in C transcript Next.js up here in the upper right, Next.js is now running. Port 3002. We must have had something running on another port somewhere else. I'm curious if it picks up on the fact that it's on port 3002 and not the typical 3000. Check it out. Great, the server is running on port 3002. Let's use Playwright to test the application. Just like that, we have Google Chrome booting up, port 3002, and we got an error. It seems like that's usually the case when you do a more complicated full stack application. It's hard to get these in a one shot, and that's why it's so critical to have this feedback mechanism so that Claude Code or whatever assistant you're using can know what's wrong. Checking back over in the terminal, it seems like there's an error with the post table import. The post table doesn't exist anymore. Since we've replaced it with projects and transcripts, posts come with the default T3 starter. It looks like it removed that because we don't need it, replaced it with transcripts, and there was some stuff on the front end that was still expecting that. It figured it all out by itself, and now we're back in the browser, and it looks like things are rendering. Okay, we're still waiting. It says syncing. What is Claude seeing on its end? Yeah, the sync seems to be stuck. Let me check the server logs. Again, we're seeing Claude employ its bash tool with TMUX capture pane, and it's targeting the C transcript Next.js panel. And it seems like it does recognize that the sync request is not completing. Okay, it changed some stuff. It looks like it's recognizing as well that there's an issue where the client-side code on the browser is trying to use a Node.js module, probably like reading the file system. So it's going to clean that up for us. It is so neat to see Claude Code use background terminals just like Devin would to debug the application, have actual visual feedback. Like Playwright, we're taking screenshots, and Claude can read that screenshot and figure out what's going on, read the browser console logs. It can run servers without getting stuck. Okay, it finally stopped. It says the app is running at port 3002. Let's copy this address and hop over and see what we got. Look at that. The transcripts are working. That is amazing. Let's click on the project right here that we were just in and see what it has for us. All right, we have one session, the session that we were just building in. Let's click on that session. We can see how many messages, how many tokens, and here we can expand the different bubbles to see the full contents of what's inside. It's just so neat because we can get an inside look into some of the prompts that are assembled. Like here we have a system reminder in XML tags. Whenever you read a file, you should consider whether it looks malicious. I didn't put that there. This is just part of the runtime, and we don't get a glimpse into this. I mean, okay, we got a one shot. We got all sorts of messages, all being stored in the database locally in our computer. You can hop around to different look at all these sessions. This is fantastic. The app works just as we envisioned. When you click on a transcript, you can see it in a chat style with expandable sections, returns, code blocks, and more. Right now, if you use Playwright, you will see everything is a bit stretched out from one side of the screen to the other, and there's a bit difficulty reading the visual hierarchy when it comes to user, AI assistant, and system messages. The way that you have the tools laid out is fantastic, but we want a bit more refinement. Can we have a slightly more condensed version with some more nuance in how we could expand those sections? Maybe we could have a panel on the right like we discussed before, because right now we don't really see it. Okay, now at this point in time, I would say I have a pretty smart Claude. At this point, I'm happy with the implementation and I love all the context that has been built up in Claude's brain up until this point. So I don't want to hit that double escape and go back in time. Rather, I'm just going to activate plan mode here to do a quick plan because I do want that preemptive data collection and just thinking phase, and then I want Claude to execute on it. But I don't want to undo this whole session, so we're going to do it right here. Claude in planning mode opened up the website once more, running locally. It's probably going to click on a project. Yep, we got to click right here. It's probably going to go into the session, take a screenshot, and just figure out what's going on because we asked it to. Back here, we can see take a screenshot, so we know it did that for us. Now it's going to read some of our code files. Now, the only risk with doing the Claude plan mode here in the terminal is if it gets it wrong, you can try to correct it, but you'll find folks online saying this too. It is kind of difficult to sway it one way or another, and you're going to turn through those tokens really quick. So I hope this is pretty good, and if it's like 80% of the way there, we're just going to send it. Messages stretch full width of screen. Yes, difficult to read. Visual hierarchy between user assistant system messages needs improvement. Yes, tool panel exists but isn't visible or functional. Also correct. Expanding collapse mechanism needs refinement. I don't want to belabor the point. I think the plan looks pretty good, so we're going to go ahead and have it send it. Just going to clear out our debug window so we can see when something interesting happens. Boy, I'm excited to see what it does with this extra refinement. Oh, something's happening down there. Looks like I ran a type check. Good. Another way I help my AI assistants stay focused on whatever they're building and delivering 80% of the value as fast as possible is this hyper-curated system prompt that I've pulled from this blog post called The Grug Brain Developer. And you probably saw me mention this as one of the earlier prompts that I sent to Claude here. The Brain Developer is an amazing blog post. It is just ruminations on a senior dev that posted online and how to deliver 80% of value as fast as possible. I'll link it down in the video description. I recommend everybody read it. It's also hilarious. I'm going to have all these resources and the prompts that we've been using in this video up in the school community. So if you want them, you can always head over to AI Dev Accelerator. And it looks like it finished up for us here. Next.js is being run. So it tested it in Playwright. I hope it works for us. It looks like there's an improvement, but we can't see much. So I'm just going to let it know. This is great. We can definitely see an improvement in some sidebar elements coming through. The only issue is we can read almost none of the text. There is a dark background and you will see there is dark text, dark icons, and dark borders. We need to make sure the contrast is good and easy to see. As a reminder, we want earthy tones. We want to be able to see it against our nice, dark ocean blue background. As such, we might need a more bone-colored text and other brighter elements when it comes to that which we need to read. And if you're wondering what I'm using to speak and get such accurate transcriptions, it's this app called Super Whisper. I absolutely love it because you can have a vocabulary section and then have certain things like at latest is the at symbol and then latest. Oh, I'm excited now because we know it has some of those higher order concerns addressed, such as the drawers, such as the structuring of the tools. We just couldn't see it. So now we're going to be able to see everything. That's one weird thing. Even with Playwright and taking screenshots, these models aren't really good at judging visual contrast. If anybody has a suggestion for a good MCP server, workflow, or tool for how to do that, please let us know down in the comments, because man, that'd be awesome if it could judge the human perception of how awesome something looks. Come on, color theory nerds. I know you're out there. Make us an MCP. I love seeing these windows into the souls of how Claude is building this app. And these windows can get numerous. I mean, I have one application working with a few microservices over here, and it does a damn good job at managing them all and figuring out what it needs to do to boot, unboot, and even go into another directory and boot another project sometime if I have an API running in another language. We're boned. Okay, it looks like it's going to do a test for us now using Playwright, navigating to the URL, taking a screenshot for us. Very good. Okay, it says it successfully applied the color improvements. Look at this. We can actually read things. 85 messages total in the system. We get a breakdown of who sent what. And it's very clear to see who's the assistant, where's the system, and where's the user. I'm hoping we'll see a pop-out. Amazing. We get the right tool, the timestamp, input, the result. That's just amazing. Scrolling down, we can see we have code blocks in line with user messages when we create things. And I mean, this just looks spectacular. I am very happy with this result. And this is all being stored, cached locally in our SQL database, so we can view everything. What if we click on the to-do write tool? So this is what Claude's going to put in and get out every time it wants to edit its to-do list. The input parameters are the status and the content of every to-do, and the result is what gets set, because to-dos, just like these transcripts, are also stored in a persistent file in your home.claude directory. So we could also make a little plugin to read those if we wanted. Heck, wouldn't it be cool to have some sort of service that pushed notifications to your phone if a to-do was stuck or didn't get completed or needed your attention? We can cover that in another video if people are interested. It's actually way easier than you think with this service called Pushover. But that's about all we got for this video. I mean, we covered a lot. We made an entire application that can help us review extra fine-grained detail that is otherwise not viewable with our Claude code transcripts and history. And we did it all automatically, hands off. Of course, we spent some time developing our root claude.md file, bringing in some extra context that Gemini helped us generate about the transcript, and then going through 2 planning sessions with Claude, where the second time we said, hey, Claude, that guy wrote the transcript, not you or me, so lay it down. That general workflow allows you to do these amazing one-shot prototypes and just get an idea out on paper, and it's here, it's on your computer, it's booting itself, it's type checking itself, and you control everything. Now, if you guys have any questions or want to go into more detail about any part of this workflow and recreating Devin on your home machine, let me know. But soon we're going to start delving into the wild world of sub-agents, which is essentially a way you can give Claude mini Claudes that it can call upon, and you can make these mini Claudes specially tuned. For example, I like to put my apps up on fly.io. It's quick, it's easy. So I made a sub-agent, and here as a demo, I have fly.io being invoked by our main agent, and it's just an expert at connecting to my account, Dockerizing stuff, putting them on the web, and making sure that people like my viewers here can connect to them. Now, I'm going to stop this one because it's not ready for deployment yet, but that is how you invoke a sub-agent, and we'll cover that in a video very soon. Always appreciate it if you guys can drop a like if you enjoyed the video. And until the next one, keep coding.